So this is lesson 6.3 of Everyday Math, Angles and Turns. And today we have some tricky concepts and skills that we're going to be working on, and we've also got some vocabulary words that we're going to be going through a little bit and demonstrating to help parents understand kind of what it is kiddos are doing, and also to help kiddos understand what you guys are doing. So the first vocabulary word we have is clockwise. So for clockwise, we think about a clock. We think about which way do the hands on a clock move, and the direction that the hands on a clock move is what we're going to call clockwise. So that's clock and then wise, one word. And that's all the way around the clock. That direction is going to be clockwise. Okay, even up here, when the hand's going this way to the right, you'll notice. So as it goes to the right, as the hand goes to the right, it's clockwise. So if you were to sit and watch a clock hand move, you would see it go clockwise. All right, so that's one word that we have. Another word that we have is going to be counterclockwise. And for counterclockwise, the hand goes to the left. Okay, and that is called counterclockwise. And that would be the opposite direction. So it's counter to the usual clockwise direction that the hands on a clock would go. So this is when it goes to the left. We call it counterclockwise. You could watch a clock and imagine if the hands were going in the other direction, it would be called counterclockwise. So you can just take a look at these arrows and see which one is clockwise and which one is counterclockwise. It doesn't matter which side of the clock, which side of the circle the hand is on. The only thing that matters is which direction it's going in. Clockwise goes to the right, counterclockwise goes to the left. Okay? The other words that we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about turns. So we have a number of different turns that we need to discuss. So, turns. We have a full turn. A full turn. And for a full turn, what happens is we have a, like, let's say this is a clock hand. For a full turn, it goes all the way around the clock, one turn. So if we did a full turn clockwise, it would go all the way around the clock, and it would end up right back where we started. So this blue hand here is going to represent a full turn because it turned one full turn around. Okay, one full turn around is going to be a full turn. The next one that we have is a half turn. The next one that we have is a half turn. So for a half turn, it's going to just turn halfway around the clock. So it takes this gray one and it turns only halfway. So it would be like going from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock. So where this orange one ends up here, we would call this a half turn because it turned halfway around the clock. So it's a half turn. The next word, the next vocabulary word, I'm going to put a hyphen right in there. The next vocabulary word that we want to talk about is a quarter turn. And for a quarter turn, you can imagine, it's going to just turn a quarter of the way around the clock. So it's like splitting the clock into 4 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. This hand is just going to turn a quarter of the way. So right here would be a quarter turn. So it turned from here to here, a quarter turn. Okay, now this doesn't mean the hands will end up in the same spot because maybe the turn starts here and goes to here. But you kind of get the idea, I think. So here's a quarter turn. All right, and remember, we're talking about a starting point that is right here by this gray hand. So I'll zoom in a little bit so you can take a look at that up close. We have a full turn. It goes all the way around the clock. We have a half turn that goes halfway around the clock, and we have a quarter turn that stops right here. Okay, so that's about turns, and that's about going clockwise to the right or counterclockwise to the left. We have one other piece of vocabulary that we need to discuss today, and that is about angles. And that's about angles. So if we talk about angles, if you have two lines, there's going to be an angle in between them. There will be an angle on the inside of the lines here and an angle on the outside of the lines here. Okay, and the key thing that you need to know, that kids need to know for this lesson, is the word right angle. So a right angle, it's not like right or wrong, and it's not even like left or right. A right angle is when I take two lines and in between them, from the corner, I can make a square between the lines. That's what we call a right angle. Okay, so it's a different meaning of right than you've heard before. Okay, a right angle, for a little review for parents, it's a 90-degree angle. Okay, and it's when one line is straight up and the other line is straight to the side. You might call it an L angle. Okay, but it's right. Okay, we call it a right angle in math. This point in here, where we're making this angle from, is called the vertex. The vertex is a point. It's a point, vertex. So if you hear the vertex of an angle, okay, it's going to mean the point where that angle is. All right? The other thing that we're going to talk about is the side of an angle. The side of an angle. Okay, side of an angle is going to be the long parts here. So there's a side there. All right, and this is also a side of an angle. Okay, and so by the process of an elimination here, the angle is this part right in between. It's the part in between the two lines that makes the angle. All right, and in this case we have a right angle. There are other kinds of angles, which we'll be discussing later, and the kids will be discussing down the road as they move through the grade levels in everyday math. But these are the key vocabulary words that kids need to know as far as the key concepts and skills we want them to know. We want them to be able to identify right angles. So we want them to be able to find that L shape or that square, that rectangle corner in an object. We want them to be able to identify the vertex, so this, and the sides of an angle. All right, and not just a right angle, but any angle is going to have the vertex in between and then two lines on the edge. Okay, so we want kids to be able to identify those things, and we also want them to be able to describe half turns, full turns, and quarter turns. We want them to be able to describe the angles as whether or not it's a quarter turn or a half turn, or maybe whether it went all the way around and made a full turn. We want them to be able to look at angles and see them in that way. One great activity that we do in class and that you can do at home, we have the kids do full turns. We have them stand up and do the turns. Okay, we have them doing clockwise, counterclockwise. We have them do full turns. We have them do half turns. We have them do quarter turns. We have them face the front and do it, and then we have them face the back and do it, and we have them face the left and do it. So we have them doing these turns from all these different orientations. That's a really fun activity. Have your kiddo show it to you. The other thing that you can do, use the clock, because the clock is something we have every day. If you don't have an analog clock, a clock with hands, I would suggest getting one, if nothing else then to practice angles. And also great for telling time. Watch which way that hand ticks by. Okay? It's a great skill for the kids to get. It will help them down the road. It will help them now. Okay? So, and it's really great for conversation. So anytime you can talk about angles, it's a good idea. Have kids find right angles too, because that's something that we need to know during this lesson. So have them look around the house, come back to you with right angles. Have them sketch them out. Show you where the right angles are. Okay? Ask them if angles are bigger or smaller than right angles, and see what you guys can come up with as a family. So this is lesson 6.3 of Everyday Math, Angles and Turns. Thank you.